Good morning, 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, December the 26th. I'm John Palmentary.
And I'm Joe Butita. We continue to follow breaking news, the Solimar fire that is burning in the Ventura County area. There are evacuations underway, and this fire has burned 1,100 acres this morning.
You're looking at an aerial shot of the fire, and it has about 3 different fronts right now. And even the ocean side, which has been the most active and cooling down, has some hot spots there as well. Highway 101 in both directions is completely closed down and has been for hours. The Union Pacific Railroad tracks, and that means freight and Amtrak passenger trains, completely closed down in this area. For commuters on this December the 26th, one of the starts of the busiest travel weeks of the year, this is going to be a mess, and we have seen traffic rerouted already, but our crews have been out in several locations throughout the entire overnight. If you were just waking up this morning, this fire began just after 11 o'clock last night, and it exploded with winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour. And fortunately, no structures have been lost, nobody has been hurt, and an army of firefighters on the ground have come out. And in just short order, as the sun comes up, you will see what they call the air show. All the big air tankers and jets full of fire retardant are going to be flying into this airspace to attack this fire and try and beat it down.
Those DC-10s will be in. They're the big ones, and you got the cranes as well that will be sucking up water from local reservoirs, what's left of water with this drought we're facing, and dumping it on here. They also have the ocean they can work with. We will have several reporters on the scene right now, and we want to begin with CJ Ward here at 6:01. And CJ, the fire behind you really starting to glow in the background. CJ?
Okay, so we're still along the 101 freeway. We moved south about another quarter of a mile. You'll see behind me here the flames. That's that hot spot we showed you that was burning toward Ventura. This fire, if you go down below that guardrail right there, it takes you right down to the beach. So you can see what the fire is doing. We've got firefighters down there right now trying to deal with it. This fire is burning up that hillside. It's also burning right toward the water as well. The winds right now are not too bad. We have a helicopter that's circling over the top. I'm not sure if it's going to make a water drop here or not, but you can see how that fire is just working its way up that hillside, working its way up toward us in the 101 freeway. This is just one of the hot spots along this entire stretch of freeway, and it continues down farther south as well. So this is what firefighters are dealing with, hot spots. They're spread out everywhere. In fact, when we were driving from Solimar Beach to get here, there were spot fires pretty much every 50 feet or so. So this fire is spread out. Firefighters are going to have to pick their spots and what they're going to focus on. Right now they're dealing on that one ravine that we showed you that's on fire, and this spot right here on the beach side of the 101 as you head toward the south. We're going to throw it back up to you guys on TV Hill.
You can see that, thank you, CJ, so much. He has been moving every live shot to get us these frontline shots. And any of those embers, depending on the winds, could start something else that hasn't burned. And that's why it's so important to attack it no matter where we see these flames.
One of the most interesting things, this area has not burned since the 1970s. Captain Mike Lindberry from the Ventura County Fire Department telling us that just about an hour ago. We're going to be speaking with him very soon. We also want to tell you about the traffic impacts. This is a busy holiday weekend, the day after Christmas. A lot of people still heading out to see family or heading home from where they were. And if we can take our live Waze app, this is what it's looking like. You don't see too much going on right now on the 101 because it's closed down. You cannot take the 101 from Bates Road to the north all the way down to the 33 in Ventura County, which would take you to Ojai. Here are some alternatives if you're trying to get around. If you need to go get south from the northern parts of this fire, this active fire, you can take the 150, but it is going to be very slow. You can see the real problems on the 150 as we're dealing with this fire and people trying to get around, and it's only 6:04 in the morning, and it's a holiday weekend, so you wouldn't assume so many people are out there, but it's going to be a long haul.
I must point out that since you showed that to us 15 minutes ago, it looks like it's doubled in size on the backup, and the real horsepower of commuters, look at that, hasn't even really hit the highways just yet. No. So it's a beautiful drive. You're going to see it about 5 miles an hour,
right,
as you go through there.
When you really need to get around, you can do it. it, but it's going to take you a long time, and it'll shoot you out down further south at the 33, which again, going to be a slow go if you're going north as well. But again, this traffic situation is not going to get any better within the next several hours, and there is a warning from sheriff's officials as you see the smoke rising here and the flames glowing. Just incredible. You can see it churning, kind of creating its own weather system.
So what's going to happen here, you're asking? What happens is in about an hour as the sun rises, they are able to fly more of the firefighting planes and helicopters. There's at least, we believe, 2 helicopters that are up throwing water on this using some of their night vision and infrared. But after 7 o'clock in the morning, Captain Linbury says the full air attack will be launched. Air Ops has alerted everybody they can that's available. They have a command center that's out of Riverside called the South Ops that takes a look at these fires and starts to dispatch strike teams from different agencies and specialized firefighting aircraft that are available, and they'll be fueling up at Santa Maria. So you'll see some activity out of the Santa Maria airport this morning, which is one of the major fueling stations for Phos-Check, and they're going to rotate out of that like a pit stop in racing as far as the planes coming in and out, loading and going. And then out at Fox Field in the Antelope Valley, same thing. They're going to hit the ground, fuel them up, and get them flying again. Then there'll be a smaller plane, the air attack plane, in the air circling around, and they'll call the shots from the sky, see where they want to start targeting the hot flanks, and start laying down that Phos-Check in front of this fire. So when it gets there, it's so cool, it's so unburnable that it won't spread. If it is extremely windy, it can still beat that and jump over it. But if it calms down, they'll be able to start to paint, as they say, with that red Phos-Check. If you remember the Gibraltar fire in the hills above Montecito, they were just throwing everything at it, and it stopped it. And they have a good chance to do that if we have some calming winds for even a little while this morning. They're coming, and they're coming with everything they have. 500
plus firefighters on the front lines this morning. Several different agencies helping out Ventura County Fire. You have the LA County Fire Department, which is sending in, and they are assisting this wind-driven fire. We have some details on the evacuation center if people were forced to evacuate in certain communities, and that evacuation center is in Carpinteria. It's at the Veterans Memorial Building at 941 Walnut Avenue, and the American Red Cross is there, ready and willing to help you and your pets, your family members, whatever you need during this time if you were forced to evacuate.
So this is a live picture now, once again, on Highway 1, just below Emmawood State Beach. We have our cameras positioned there because there's so much activity there. We have one camera with Kelsey Gherkins right up on Highway 101, and then right below her on Highway 1, the Coast Highway there, and you can see where the fire has been very active there. One of the concerns there is if we get any more intensive wind, we will see that possibly get over in the Ventura riverbed, which has been a problem even when we didn't have this fire. We've had some other kinds of fires that have developed there for other reasons of people being down in there, and that has been a very volatile area. That is tinder dry. There's been no water in there forever, and that could run both directions. They do not want to see embers getting into the Ventura riverbed or down where the RV park is down there. We haven't heard much about the campers of people on the Coast Highway. I think they were sheltering in place down there because they're on asphalt without any vegetation around them. But that is a very big concern if it goes that way. And as we saw from the aerials, as it gets back a little bit more out of our vision from the freeway, it's a little bit hard to call it, and we'll rely on the firefighters to tell us where that is. As we know, these industrial roads back there for agriculture or oil development or roads that they all know about, but we don't get to go on. So hopefully there's enough cuts in there, dozer cuts, to get back in there with the crews.
And the oil fields are a concern. The pipelines that bring oil, we're keeping an eye on all that. The Ventura County Fire, well aware. We talked to Mike Linbury earlier, who is their PIO, their Public Information Officer, and he says they know about the lines and they're keeping an eye on it. Just like you'd have to do with your home. Yeah. If you live in an area, you have to keep that defensible space. Well, the oil companies have to do that too. So we're tracking all of of that, you can see the glow of the sunrise is you know, not very far away. You can see it just over the hills there. We want to check in with Alan Rose. As you see that picture, the smoke's going straight up in the air, and that, for firefighters, certainly a good sign, because if it's going sideways, that means the winds are really howling.
Yeah, it's a big difference out there early this morning, guys, versus what we saw late last night. Again, the fire erupted right around 10:40 p.m. Christmas Day. The night after everyone had eaten the meals and was settling into bed, you could see the fire started blazing just to the south of Santa Barbara. The flames visible overnight in Ventura. Definitely a scary sight, and it's not too often we see a major wildfire erupt right near the hillsides along the coast and stay right there, although it has spread a little bit towards Highway 33 because of the strong winds. There's a lot of factors going into this firefight this morning. And we are under a wind advisory in this area. Now, I think we will see a little bit of a lull in the winds come this afternoon through the evening hours, but another burst of winds late tonight into early Sunday. And at times, winds could be gusting as high as 50 miles an hour by the coast. Now, farther inland, a high wind warning is in effect for the same time period. Winds here gusting as high as 65 miles an hour. So if you are doing that drive and sort of taking that detour around the fire, going up Highway 150, down Highway 33, you could experience some strong winds, even stronger than what you'll see at the coast. So keep that in mind. That could make the commute or the drive a little bit dangerous with those very gusty crosswinds. And speaking of winds, here's a look at some of the peak wind gusts that we've seen over the past couple of hours. A little bit difficult to gauge exactly what's happening near the fire. It's in a fairly isolated area. There's not a lot of weather data to pull from, but just to the north and parts of Ventura County out towards La Conchita, there is a weather station. They've recorded a gust at 42 miles an hour. Also seeing winds at 42 in the mountains just to the north, and winds well into the 30s so far today and across parts of Ventura County. So there's a lot of things happening in the atmosphere that are driving these winds. We have this very cold pocket of air that's driving that wind farther to the south, and we have this area of low pressure. So it's a lot of energy in the atmosphere. As that moves to the east very slowly, high pressure builds in behind it, and all these things factor in together to bring in some very intense winds. That is what we saw last night, and that is what we have seen certainly throughout parts of our Saturday morning. So still today, it will be windy at times in the fire zone. North winds 20 to 30, gust at 45. Again, a little bit of a break through the afternoon and evening hours. And then as we look at the humidity, around 25 to 15%, a little higher by tonight. And temperature-wise, we're looking at 60s this afternoon, but down to the 30s and 40s as we head into the overnight hours. Again, I mentioned that we don't see a lot of huge fires in at least Santa Barbara and Ventura counties right along the coast. John, who is a plethora of knowledge, I'm going to put you on the spot, John, and ask you a question. When was the last time that you think we saw fire like this, of this magnitude, burn right up along the beach?
The last time I think I saw a fire in an area between roughly Bates Road and La Conchita might have been in the late 80s when that was on fire. One night we could see it here from TV Hill. I do remember we took another shot as well, and it didn't expand like this one did, but it certainly burned to the west of La Conchita and had that whole hillside going, and the freeway was shut down. And again, it was one of those fires that was just burning within that chaparral, and they were able to get to it, but it was very visible from Summerlin, Carpinteria, Santa Barbara, and scared the heck out of everybody along Highway 101 with all the falling embers.
Sure did. Well, Ventura County's Office of Emergency Services has put out their latest release information. They've confirmed 1,100 acres have burned. Mandatory evacuations currently in effect for the Solimar beach residence and campground areas if people were there for the holiday. Voluntary evacuations are in effect for Faria Beach residents. We talked with Candy Dugan, who lives at Faria Beach. She's been there 35 years and says that they're usually concerned with flooding and things like that from the ocean, not necessarily fires, although they know it's a possibility. And there is a shelter for people that they can go to. The American Red Cross has done that at the Carpinteria Veterans Memorial Building. And we have reporters that continue to be on the scene, and Kelsey Gerkins is one of them.
Yes, we've been on the scene all night long with a team of reporters and videographers. Some of them showered with embers as they've been reporting to us, some driving in their vehicles away from the fire. Kelsey Gerkins, who was surrounded by flames a short time ago, you look a little bit safer now, and we're glad to see that. What's the situation on your end by Emmawood State Beach?
John and Joe, things have definitely changed out here. It's a lot calmer. There is one little flare-up behind me right now, and that is bringing hot embers and smoke and ashes right to where we are. But totally different scene out here compared to last time you talked to us, just about 15-20 minutes ago. If you look at this hillside that we lit up for you, pretty much just dry ash all across the way. There's a few little embers there, but the wind calmed down enough that the big flames that we had over here, they didn't keep spreading towards the city of Ventura. They actually stopped there. There's a bunch of thick, dry brush just on the other side of those glowing embers, but they didn't catch on fire. So a good scene out here. It is windy. You can see the smoke behind me and the embers, that little flare up there, but it's definitely a lot calmer because we aren't having that flare up go up towards the hillside again or up towards the city of Ventura. It is a lot calmer. Just beyond this ridge here, though, there was a really big red glow. We can't see it from our vantage point, but obvious flames beyond there, but a lot calmer out here. Fire officials are now battling it up there. Nobody's here on the freeway, but again, US 101 is completely closed off, northbound and southbound. Where I'm standing right now is on the northbound side of the 101 freeway, in between the state beaches and the main exit. Giving it back to you, Joe and John.
That was an emergency vehicle that went behind her, and there it goes again from another shot, possibly. And that's those are the only vehicles being allowed through there: the fire commanders, the CHP, and some of the strike teams that are going in. And even though the fire's died down, they're going to have to go in there and make sure every single hot spot is out. There's going to be crews there all day long. It is going to be a multi-day fire in all aspects of it, because not only do they have to get a ring around it, they got to make sure everything's out on the outside and the inside.
And with this closure of the 101, you need to really use caution if you're trying to get around and use the 150. If you're taking that way, it's an alternative. It's not a good one, but it is an alternative. They have heavy traffic reported there. And we want to go to CJ Ward now. He's standing by with an interesting perspective. He's got the ocean on one side and the highway on the other side, with the fire in the middle and CJ right in front of it all. CJ?
So again, we are just south of Emma Wood on the southbound side of the 101, and about 10 minutes ago we showed you the flames that were shooting up over the side of the guardrail and the freeway here. Take a look at this over my shoulder. This is what was burning. This is the entire hillside on fire. You can see power lines. I know maybe you can through the smoke, but there are power lines that are running down there. And then right behind it you see the surf. So this thing is burning right down to the beach. If you listen closely, you can hear the waves crashing. So this whole hillside's on fire. Got firefighters showing up here to try and put this thing out. Again, this is just south of Emma Wood. Kind of a surreal out here with the sun coming up. You got this hillside on fire. You got the waves crashing against the beach. And again, we got some power lines out here as well. We're going to throw it back to you guys.
DJ, thank you very much. And you saw the railroad tracks with that shot. Obviously, Amtrak and Metrolink, all of them
Union Pacific,
closed
the freight
down
trains,
today.
Nothing's moving. So you are looking at a live picture. The sun is starting to come up, and the winds in some areas starting to die down. At the Solimar Beach fire, which has burned 1,100 acres, 500 firefighters have come in the middle of the night, and more are coming, and air operations getting set to launch a full-scale attack at dawn on this fire, and we are live on the scene along the Ventura County coastline.
And we're going to continue to follow this breaking news out of Ventura County, the Solimar fire, 1,100 acres, and we'll be right back with much more on this special edition of News Channel 3.